Coming up, after 4 straight #1 albums in their native UK and a #1 album in America that actually contained the #1 song of the year, these guys were the biggest band in the world. And while they were at their peak, they broke up. Their fans were perplexed. Today we try to figure out why and tell the story of how their legendary lead singer gave up a gold mine to go it alone while making a major gamble with his solo album, while writing a hit song that was a therapeutic antidote or remedy or a sequel to his disturbing and misunderstood smash hit from a few years before. We got exclusive interviews with band members and a great story coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you remember a time when we had Tower Records and Musicland and Sam Goody Music, Toys R Us, KB Toys, Showbiz Pizza Place, all those Radio Shack, you're going to dig this nostalgic channel. Make sure to subscribe below right now. Click the big red button. Click the bell so you always know when it's coming out. We also have a Patreon. You're going to want to check that out. We're putting full interviews there and other content. You can also become an honorary producer to help us curate this music history. So today, we're going to get into the story behind the end of one of the biggest bands of the late 70s and early 80s. Of course, I'm talking about the Police and the beginnings of Sting's solo career, featuring the song that kicked it all off as an antidote to the band's #1 hit, Every Breath You Take. Remember, I did a piece on Every Breath You Take, and I asked if you wanted the antidote. Anyway, technically, the Police never formally disbanded in the 80s. They just kind of stopped playing. It was sneakily done, admitted guitarist Andy Summers. He said there was no closure, which had a lot of fans holding their breath, anticipating what was sure to be, a monumental 6th studio album. Never happened. I mean, after all, in the early 80s, the Police ruled the music world. In June of 83, they released their massively successful 5th album, Synchronicity, #1 album in both the US and the UK. I mean, it spawned 3 top 10 hits, including the #8 hit, Wrapped Around Your Finger, also the #3 hit, King of Pain, and the haunting #1, Every Breath You Take. Fourth single, Synchronicity 2, went to #16, great song. Now it's celebrating 40 years if you can handle that. They also fronted a triumphant 105-show world tour to support the album. I mean, there's no arguing that by this point they were at the peak of their powers, and they showed no signs of slowing down, at least in terms of popularity. In August of 83, the band gave a rarefied Shea Stadium performance to a sellout crowd of over 70,000. I mean, before the show, Sting sat down with his guitarist Andy Summers and also drummer Stuart Copeland, and he said, "This is as good as it gets. I mean, we're playing Shea Stadium. This is where the Beatles played. We're the biggest band in the world this year. After this, it's going to be diminishing returns. I think we just stop now at the top." Eventually, the Police announced that they were taking a sabbatical to devote time to individual projects. That's how it happened at first. Fans across the world could only hope that this hiatus would be short-lived. But by the summer of 1984, Sting was in London working on a new batch of songs, and by January of 85, Sting was on his way to New York to recruit a new band. There he set up a 3-week workshop with an open invite to members of the jazz community to come in and jam. The idea was to pick the cream to play his solo debut. From the turnout, Sting gathered a talented entourage of musicians. I mean, Kenny Kirkland on keys, Daryl Jones on bass, the great Branford Marsalis on sax, Omar Hakim on drums, and Janice Pendarvis and Dolette McDonald on backing vocals. Their roles were more clearly defined than the members of the Police had ever been. These new musicians were hired to play, and Sting was the singer-songwriter and the clear lead. For reasons I'll get into in a minute, Sting called the band the Blue Turtles. Now, actually, there have been a lot of rumors about how he put this band together. One rumor was that he wanted Branford Marsalis in his band so very badly, and Branford had other projects he was doing, that Sting actually camped out on his lawn in protest to get him to join his band. I've heard that story a lot of times from different people who were there, but I've never been able to find it in print. Very strange. On February 25th, 1985, with very little rehearsal time, Sting and his new crew made their first live appearance at the Ritz Club in New York. There they performed Police favorites like Roxanne alongside some jazz classics. Sting also debuted his soon-to-be first solo single, If You Love Somebody, Set Them Free. The concert was a resounding success, leading to 2 more shows after that. Then the band flew to Barbados to start recording Sting's solo debut at Eddie Grant's Blue Wave Studios. The album's title, Dream of the Blue Turtles, that was inspired by a strange dream that Sting had in Barbados. In it, he was sitting in the walled garden behind his Hampstead house. Above him was a lilac tree, and all around him was a well-manicured lawn surrounded by rose bushes. Suddenly, the bricks from the wall exploded into the garden, and an enormous blue turtle emerged from the darkness, followed by 4 or 5 others. Monstrous things. Said Sting, "They didn't harm me, but with an almost casual violence commenced to destroy my genteel English garden, digging up the lawn with their claws, chomping at the rose bushes, bulldozing the lilac tree. It was total mayhem." When Sting awoke, he knew exactly what his dream meant. The proper English garden represented just how easy his life had become with the police. The Turtles were his new jazz band, and the garden's destruction signaled that his career needed a massive overhaul. This is according to Sting. He said, "I had that dream at a time when I had doubts about my future. Should I stay with the police and make a safe album?" The dream said no. So for everyone who was devastated the police never released a follow-up to the classic Synchronicity, you have a dream about a monstrous blue turtle to thank for that. Hopefully you got it right. With Sting's new album, the legend was out to upend everyone's preconceptions and expectations. He felt it was time to do something unsettlingly different. And playing with a jazz ensemble wasn't the only way he would do this. Sting's lyrics had reached into new territory as well. They were more cerebral than ever before. He wasn't moving in the direction of a concept album, but with that he focused his songcraft on the troubled world around him, more or less forgetting his inner turmoil behind. He concentrated on myriad issues, from world peace to nuclear power weapons to politics. It was a bold and vulnerable venture. Instead of making a police album that he could have taken to the bank, had worldwide fame, he said his decision to challenge himself and open himself up to criticism was what he wanted to do. However, the gamble paid off as the Dream of the Blue Turtles became a critical and a commercial triumph. It included 6 singles, Love is the Seventh Wave, Fortress Around Your Heart, Russians, Moon Over Bourbon Street, We Work the Black Seam.
To do if the Russians love their children to my face at noon. Work the black seam together.
And of course, today's featured song, If You Love Somebody, Set Them Free. If You Love Somebody, Set Them Free, it opens the album. It's fast, it's catchy, and definitely the most commercial song on the record. Now, like much of the album, the song has heavy jazz influences. Sting said it was the first single that he wrote on his own away from the police, and that he probably read the phrase somewhere, but to his knowledge, it was the first time it had been used in a pop song.
Well, I was very aware of people's interpretation of Every Breath as being a sort of negative, and so I did want to write an antidote or a different viewpoint. And I just, Tuesday night started on a new relationship, and I just felt joyful and free, and I believe it. If you do love somebody, you set them free. It takes courage to do that. At the same time, it's the right thing to do. If they really love you or you really love them, you're always going to be an item. But it's not about control. It's about understanding. It's about give and take, compromise.
Now, we discussed Every Breath You Take in depth in a previous episode some months ago, so I'll just kind of touch on it quickly here. If you give it just a superficial listen, Every Breath You Take sounds a lot like a sentimental love song. However, if you parse out the lyrics even a little bit, you realize it's a story about obsession and surveillance and possession. Basically a stalker song. Even Sting would say that he didn't realize how menacing it was when he wrote it and that it sounded seductive and romantic. But he would later caution that Every Breath You Take shouldn't be interpreted as a love song. He would say, I think the song is very, very sinister and ugly, and people have actually misinterpreted it as being a gentle little love song when it's quite the opposite. I mean, people have walked down the aisle to this song. So if Every Breath You Take was the poison to a healthy relationship, then If You Love Somebody, Set Them Free was supposedly the remedy. Well, mostly, even though these two songs live on opposite ends of the relationship spectrum, Sting would say he felt the truth was probably somewhere in the middle. That's because when taken to the extreme, the philosophy of if you love somebody, set them free can reflect a fear of commitment, even. Although he would say that the highest compliment he could pay to a partner is that he didn't own you and that they were free. He also admitted that he was not into the idea of permanent relationships. He actually called them phony, shallow, and unrealistic. In relationships, I feel very susceptible to entrapment. I see the bars go up and I try and escape, usually in the most violent and vicious way, end of quote. So maybe it's safe to say the answer is somewhere in the middle, as he said. And the thing is, if you love somebody, set them free, it is about freedom and letting go of control in a relationship. Hence the lyric, you can't control an independent heart. Then later when he says, so many riches, so many souls, everything we see that we want to possess. And then if you want to hold on to your possessions, don't even think about me. If you love somebody, set them free. In other words, let them be. Don't try to possess or control them or the relationship. I mean, contrast that to Every Breath You Take when he watches every move his lover makes and even says, can't you see you belong to me? Seems like he's figured it all out in the follow-up to Every Breath You Take with this song. Of course, when considering the song's timing and Sting's newly declared independence from Copeland and Summers, the song takes on added dimension. You think about it. That freedom he's singing about might be about escaping from one of the world's biggest bands in search of, his own artistic independence. But I think that however you interpret it, if you love somebody, set them free, it works as a perfect companion piece to Every Breath You Take. You got to listen to them back to back. Very cool. Now, the music video for If You Love Somebody, Set Them Free, that was actually directed by the same visual specialist, Godley and Cream, who did Every Breath You Take. Very different, though. Watch those two back to back. If You Love Somebody, Set Them Free, that did pretty well around the world. It went to number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100. It went to number 10 on the Dance Club chart and number 1 on the mainstream rock chart. Triple threat there. It was 3 weeks at number 1 there. Internationally, it reached number 26 in the UK, went to number 23 in France, 19 in Sweden, 18 in Australia, number 15 in Ireland, 13 in Belgium, number 6 in New Zealand, and it went top 5 in Canada. If You Love Somebody, Set Them Free has been a regular in Sting's set list really since 1985. It's one of his favorite songs to perform, actually, as he said. Sting was inescapable throughout 1985. Not only did he release multiple hit singles from The Dream of the Blue Turtles, but of course he sang that iconic I Want My MTV refrain on Dire Straits' Money for Nothing. He also sang backing vocals on the number 7 Phil Collins hit Take Me Home. And cameoed on Miles Davis's album You're Under Arrest. And then, of course, there was Live Aid.
Message in a bottle.
September of 85, Sting performed If You Love Somebody, Set Them Free at the 1985 MTV Video Music Awards. And of course, he took his Dream of the Blue Turtles out on the road, touring 17 countries from 85 to 86 with a great live album, Bring on the Night. But what about the Police? The other policemen, as it were. Andy Summers and Stuart Copeland, they did well enough in their own endeavors. Copeland became a top soundtrack composer, and Summers wrote acclaimed music for a more niche audience. But that's not really what I'm getting at. Now that Sting had a solo album in the bag, was it over for the Police? Well, despite A&M Records' best efforts, and of course a hopeful fan base, the idea of the Police getting back together was more fantasy than reality. Actually, the contentious trio did temporarily reconvene in June of 1986 to play 3 concerts. That was for the Amnesty International Conspiracy of Hope tour. That actually led to an attempt to record a new album that following month. However, prior to heading into the studio, Stuart Copeland broke his collarbone in a horse riding accident, and the injury exacerbated simmering tensions within the group. And in the end, the trio completed a couple of tracks, a new version of Don't Stand So Close to Me. They also did a new version of the Do 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 Da 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 Da. That one remains unreleased officially, but here's a little snippet of both. So instead of Synchronicity Part 2, or 3, since 2 was already taken, or whatever might have come of the group aborted and attached the Don't Stand So Close to Me 86 version to a compilation record, Every Breath You Take, the singles. The reimagined version of the song, that only reached number 46 on the Hot 100, but the album hit number 1 in the UK, and went to number 7 in America, and for a brief moment it seemed like maybe this wasn't the end. Following the greatest hits release, the Police once again went their separate ways, and Sting did a bunch of solo stuff.
And finally, we just said, Sting and I were talking and just said, God, we got to stop this. There's only one way off this. We got to melt down the golden cage and eat the golden goose, which we decided to do very amicably.
Yeah, because there was no official breakup.
Miles, he said, don't say if you say you're broken up, people will lose interest, but we want to keep on selling records, whether you do another show or not. We want to keep selling records. And so he persuaded us to not make any kind of announcement. But we went our separate ways.
The trio did make some informal reunions in the years that would follow. For example, when they played Sting's Wedding in 1992. And then in 2003, the Police were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And there they all took the stage for Roxanne and Every Breath You Take. However, the exclamation point on the Police's legacy was their 2007 to 2008 worldwide reunion tour that marked the 30th anniversary of the band's beginnings. With a total of 151 dates, the tour spanned 5 continents and was at the time the 3rd highest grossing tour ever, estimated to have brought in 360 to 380 million in revenue. At the final show at Madison Square Garden, Sting said, "It's been a huge honor to get back with my old friends. The triumph of this tour is that we haven't strangled each other. Not to say that it hasn't crossed my mind." The band announced that when the tour was finished, they would be breaking up once and for all. There would be no new album. There would be no follow-up tour. That was it for the Police. So as the saying goes, if you love somebody, set them free. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment about Sting. And if you love Somebody Set Them Free, what do you remember about this song? What are your thoughts in terms of being, it being an antidote to Every Breath You Take? And what are your thoughts on the Police? What would they have done if they would have cut a record of new songs? Let us know in the comments. Let's have a great discussion. If you like our videos, we definitely invite you to subscribe below. We'd love to have you as part of this channel. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth later.